A hearty shalom to you, Jeffrey Seif here. We are on the road with Paul, who has on his second missionary journey. He wasn't even planning on going to Macedonia, northern Greece, never mind southern Greece. He's going to make his way to Achaia. He's left Thessalonica, Berea, and now he's going to wind up in Athens. This is a man on the move, and I like that he is all out and about, getting out there in the world and looking to accomplish something for the kingdom, not just enjoying the benefits of participating in it. And by the way, that's a message for us all, to be looking to contribute to advancing the gospel, not just being pleased that we have somehow been impacted by it. In any case, in chapter 17, verses 16 through 33, Paul is on the move. He has made his way to Athens. We're told while he was there, in verse 16, he is, his spirit, to use the language of the text, was aroused within him. He's prompted to be about doing something. And even though there were Spartan few Jews in Athens as compared to other places, because the city so much celebrated other ways of thinking and being, we're told still in verse 17 that he went into the synagogue and conversated with Jewish people as well as non-Jewish people, God-fearers, who were kindly inclined toward the people of Israel, the religion of Israel, and the God of Israel. And you've already heard me to say Paul, the apostle to the Gentiles. Really, the Gentiles that he engaged were people he met in synagogues. They were half-baked Jews, in effect, attracted to things of Jewish world and culture. Well, he doesn't just spend his time in the shul. He goes out into the marketplace, we're told, and there he invokes the ire of some who refer to him as a babbler, you know. But Greece is a place, Athens is a place where people were known to exchange ideas, and Paul was a credible spokesperson. He was, in effect, a rabbi, a member of the Parushim, and so people gave him his due, and he had an opportunity to give voice to what he was all about. He particularly, it seems to me, was game to try and talk to people in a way that they could understand. Paul's not in a synagogue here. He's out and about in the marketplace in Athens, in the Areopagus, in fact. And there's no point in pointing to Jewish scripture if they don't understand it. He, in verse 17 says, verse 22 in chapter 17, excuse me, he says, "Men of Athens, I see that in all ways you are very religious." He alights upon the fact that they have a certain religious tradition. He's not minded to offend them for it. He says in 23, "I found an altar as I was walking about with the inscription to an unknown God. Therefore, what you worship without knowing, I'm going to make known to you." He's looking to use things in the culture in order to advance the kingdom. You know, you speak of the unknown God, let me make him known, in other words. You can see his tact here. He's trying to exploit the moment. And not only that, when he gives voice here, he will quote Epimenides and Aratus. He's quoting Greek philosophers. He's trying to build a bridge. He's trying to communicate in a way that they could understand. He does this when he's in the synagogue. The language of the synagogue is the scripture. He speaks from that. When he's in Athens, the language of Athens is in their traditions. He speaks from that. He's trying to be all things to all men. And I might say as well that that's something that we give pride of place to in the Tree of Life family. That is that we're Jewish, we're Jesus believers, and we're all about wanting to articulate the gospel in a way that Jewish people can understand. The thinking is that in so many ways Christianity is articulated in a way that the nations of the world can understand, and I'm glad for that. Problem is people lost sight of how to communicate the gospel to the host culture, that is the Jewish people, the womb from which it all emerged. And the Jesus story, and you know that just from a casual reading of the New Testament, it began in a Jewish world, in a Jewish womb, and it was birthed out of all of that. And sadly, There's been a lack of interest, a lack of know-how, a lack of something to want to help Jewish people come to understand the gospel and to articulate in a way that makes sense. There's been a lot of nonsense. And in as much as here you see Paul being flexible, he's trying to communicate when you're in Rome, you do as the Romans do, and there he is trying to speak, to get some traction among them. My life, what I say that encapsulates so much my life, I want to help Jewish people come to know Jesus, and I want to help Jesus people come to know Jews. That's very telling of what I'm all about, speaking to both crowds. Well, Paul's speaking to both. We're told in verse 34, some men joined with him and believed that a result of Paul's throwing the dice out there and doing what he can, he didn't garner a big harvest, but he got something. We're told some men believed, among them Dionysius, a member of the council of the Areopagus. This is a big shot. And a woman named Damaris and others with them. You know, I want to mention parenthetically the fact that Luke mentions women parenthetically, but they were hardly parenthetical to Paul's life and ministry, that Paul was helped along by women that were touched by him. I've mentioned this before. Paul, in so many ways today, is read as being a misogynist, anti-women. I think it's a misread of the man that because women were indeed attracted to Paul. Paul wasn't as he's represented today because of, I think, not really dealing well with some of the things that he said. They're translated poorly. They're misunderstood, even when they're translated correctly. Paul's kind of read as, you know, pushing women away and in their place. But actually women, that it's interesting, Paul's biographer notes that women experience him and want to join the movement. And they're not insignificant, you know, peasant stock women, powerful women, if you will. I've mentioned that before. In any case, Paul is on the move, and he's here in Athens. And by the way, I've been there. It's a fascinating place. With another ministry, Zola Levitt Presents, which is a TV concern that's been teaching in the Jewish roots of the faith for years. 40 years and going, actually. It's one of the longest running programs on Christian television. Zola died, and I took that over. And we did a series called In the Footsteps of the Rabbi from Tarsus, and actually went all around the Mediterranean world and filmed there and taught from location. And I remember the Areopagus, you know, Athens, just a fascinating place. It really is. And it's great to get out and about. You know, Tree of Life Bible Society is out there traveling in the Bible lands as well. You might want to consider taking a trip someday. You know, one trip to the Bible lands is worth 10 years of Sunday school or Saturday school, or whatever you want to call it. I mean, it's just great to get out there and see it. And, you know, my mind kind of harks back to my time up there on the hill. In fact, I'm even having visions of Athens as I speak. But I got to get out of this segment now. Paul's on the move. And he is going to be in Corinth, next stop on the train. Hit a lot of pay dirt there, and we'll see that next week. But for now, I'm Jeffrey Seif, signing out. God bless.